the secret of multiplication. I thought the secret of multiplication was to give thanks alone. Until one time I was studying and the Lord told me, no, the secret of multiplication is not to give thanks. The first secret of multiplication is surrendering everything you have first. You don't give thanks with it in your hands. You give thanks when it's in his hands. Bring them hither to me. Bring your financial limitation to me. Bring the lack of influence to me. You do not have the power to multiply it. And the Bible says, 19. Are we learning something this morning? And he commanded the multitude to sit down. That is the first key to multiplication. You must find rest as proof that you trust me. It's not merely just saying, I thank you in anxiety. Anxiety is sin. Number one, surrender your pain and everything to me. Put them in that alabaster box. Don't just bring pleasant things. Put your pain, put your disappointment, put everything at the alabaster box. You don't break it at my feet standing. He said, sit down. If you don't have the patience to sit down, you will not eat bread from the master. I know you are in a hurry because time is gone, but find rest. Let it be that you trust me. God is speaking to someone. It's time to sit down. It is vain to wake up early in the morning and to sleep late at night, only to eat the bread of sorrow. He gives his beloved sleep. He spent a whole chapter talking on worry. We live in a society that in an attempt to communicate responsibility, they end up promoting anxiety. People run from pillar to post. Woe betides a man who does not have the advantage of God's favor on his life. You will labor helter-skelter and only return with pain as a reward. The Bible says to walk circumspectly as wise and not as unwise, redeeming the time, for the days are evil. Are we together now? So he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass. How many of you know a hungry man is an angry man? You don't ask an angry man to sit down when he has not seen the bread. All kinds of complaints already. Insensitive Jesus, you wasted our time. Now is night. We have children. The master commands, sit down. Someone is saying, Lord, I started a building project. It's not finished. I need to go around. I was told that there's someone I can meet, and God is saying, sit down. 3 hours with me will give you what a connection of 10 years cannot give you. I want you to know the value of his presence and the value of finding rest. There remaineth a rest for the Lord's people. Next verse. Are we learning the principles? So principle number one, learn to hand over everything. God does not say we should hand over only good things. You hand over everything. Your pain, your disappointment. I am the one. You have shown mercy. You have shown me mercy. You have shown me mercy. By next week, this will be someone's song. That I'm the one that you have shown mercy. You have shown me mercy. You have shown me mercy. When people ask you, how did it happen? You will tell them, look, I know that I was diligent, but there is a part of this equation I don't know who completed the gap. All I know is that I did my due diligence and God was introduced in the equation. From then, I don't know what happened. All I know, you see, you've heard me say that anything plus God is the answer he puts there. Anything plus God. There is no logic once God comes in. It is the answer he puts there. He can put 5 loaves, 2 fish plus God equals to feeding 5,000 men minus women and children alongside 12 baskets full. The Bible says, verse 19 please. He commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass. Look what he did. He took the 5 loaves and 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he blessed it. Some versions say he gave thanks. And he broke it and gave the loaf to the disciples. go and feed the multitudes. And as they went with thanksgiving, multiplication began to happen. Let me tell you this. Multiplication is always at the instance of genuine gratitude. When you surrender everything to God, when you find rest as a proof of your faith and trust in him, the next thing is to begin to give thanks. Lord, I thank you. I thank you. Not, God, you gave me tea, you gave me bread. Where is the jam to put on it? I thank you that I have the hands to hold. You know, we live in a world where people are always conscious of what is left. Lord, you have done this. Thank you. We quickly breeze it. Lord, when will you bring this? And it says, is this your perception of my goodness? Even as humans, there are people you will give 10 naira, 100 naira, and the way they tell you thank you, you feel very evil for giving them 100 naira. You are compelled to step up that amount because that level of gratitude outweighs the benevolence. It's like a debt you owe them again. Have you blessed someone and then he tells you 100 naira, he tells you thanks. 10,000, he says thanks. 100,000, he says thanks. 1 million, he says thanks. Is that a wise man? It took different levels of effort to produce that amount. And the possibilities that those amounts can produce are not the same. Your thanksgiving is not complete until the benevolent person, the one who gave that thanks, perceives that you are grateful. Your thanksgiving is not as you want. You keep thanking and looking at the person you are thanking until he perceives that your thanks matches his benevolence. You should not stop. So when you come to God for giving you life, for giving you grace, for giving you children, for giving you this, you've been complaining about a 2-bedroom flat and say, Lord, thanks in 1 minute, and you use 3 hours to complain. He says, wow. But someone will hold a loaf of bread and keep it down and roll and almost roll on the bread. And God says, you are doing this for bread, you are ready for the next level. And he opens him up. Multiplication. Proverbs chapter 3 from verse 5. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Is the word bata. It means throw yourself and expect him to hold you. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Verse 6 is the secret. In all your ways, acknowledge him. One of the principal ways of acknowledging God is giving thanks. To acknowledge means to ascribe worth. To acknowledge means to give the person an impression of value and usefulness. Are we learning something this morning? In all your ways, acknowledge him. It's one of the mysteries in the kingdom that every time you meet a wall in your life, every time you come before an obstacle, every time you feel limited at the current level, stop talking about the limitation. Turn back and draw from the archives of what God did yesterday. The only way to move forward is to look back and say, Father, thank you. When David stood before Goliath, he reached down to the archives of God's goodness and says, the God who delivered the bear and the lion to my hands, that same God. Many times we forget the things that God did yesterday and we stand before our desires and we keep yelling at heaven, are you not God? Don't bring shame to your name, and so on and so forth. And then God is looking at us and wondering. But someone stands before God and says, Lord, I am grateful. I'm trusting God that my children will get admission. My first gratitude is that I have children. I never had to wait one day for a child. Lord, I thank you. And whilst you are thanking God, he says, don't talk about the admission issue again. It was covered already in your praise. That you acknowledge me, your praise can spread wide enough to cover your requests.
You can follow us on all our social media handles at Flaming Channel. Also visit us at www.flamingchannel.com. Thank you. As we all know, the life of a Christian is one that should embrace maturity, growth, and development, as we have seen from the scriptures. That is why we've dedicated this channel to bring to you soul refreshing and spirit energizing content that will transform your life to the end that the purposes of God will be birthed and sustained in our time. This content has been sourced from highly and esteemed men and women of God whose lives are proofs and testimonies to the goodness of God. Messages from Apostle Joshua Selman, Apostle Arome Osai, Apostle Michael Oropo, and other anointed men and women of God. You can follow us on all our social media handles at Flaming Channel. Also visit us at www.flamingchannel.com. Thank you.